Tapped out on me.
It went out.
It went out, but I just put it back on.
How long was that out for?
About 30 seconds.
Okay, this is not the information I'd received.
We didn't do public comment. Was that public or regular meeting?
That was a public.
Public meeting. These people just left.
Let's see if there's anybody remote or in person here, make public comment on that last.
We should probably go see if there's left there.
Thank you. So we did have the sign posted,
Yeah.
but I did not see the notification in the voices. So we're halfway there. But regardless, the staff needs to go over the submissions with you in detail. This should be complete before it comes to us, complete before we even open the hearing. So we shall proceed with that at this time. Do you have any comment you want to make? I mean, I apologize. I should have given you a chance to speak and make your point on that.
If there's nothing to, I don't know, is there anything that we need to?
You got what you need for the paperwork at university.
I don't know what we're missing on the paperwork.
Verification of what we're missing.
Yeah. I'm sorry, so it's my responsibility to post it in the voices?
I believe the town posts that voices. Am I correct?
Identify yourself, okay, for the record.
Oh, yeah, sure. Please step up to the microphone.
How's you coming in?
Matt Bryan with Anderson.
Okay.
Remember Carter, by the way.
That should be on. Let's see.
There's a little button. It's a little button. A little click button. Yeah.
Matt Bryan with Anderson.
Yeah, do you want to? They're coming back.
Okay. So why don't we wrap this up then, I think. So it's the town's responsibility to post this in voices, Rick?
Yes.
Yeah, yes?
Yeah.
So it was not posted.
Mr. Chairman, Rick Schultz, I notified the applicant of that deficiency. He posted it that day.
In the voices. In the voices.
Oh, no, the legal notice was posted.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not see it. I went specifically looking for it. It was not in there.
But
I don't know if I can't verify that. Yeah.
So
I have the voices, I have the voices.
was this sign posted for 10 days?
That will confirm for the record, posted it after I called.
That was posted on Monday.
Okay. So it needs to be put,
When was the last time we required a sign being put out in front of somebody's property that wanted to do something that was concerned about land?
for a public hearing, every one of them. It's the applicant, this is what Rick and I have learned this week. It's the applicant's responsibility to put the sign out. And it's the town's responsibility to run the notice in the paper.
Right, so I apologize, it's not part of the application, and not having done this before, I didn't know how to read the regulations, and I guess I was notified that it's in the regulation to put it out 10 days in advance, but it's not part of the application process.
Our apologies for not having a clear step there. And that may be some of the case with some of the paperwork. I do not have all the detail to comment. I would ask that you would get with staff, and I'll work with whoever I need to there to go over the paperwork, make sure that you have an opportunity to submit everything. So we'd continue this to the next meeting.
Should we wait for Rick to come back with the voices, someone to confirm that?
I think that's, yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
To get that part out of the way, do you want to, I don't know how you want to handle the, going back to that application. They came back.
Okay. Could we just pause this? And then we'll take the one last step that we missed in the last public hearing, which was public comment. And I understand there may be some public comment in the audience. Anyone care to speak?
Yeah, we were just curious what.
Yes, come up and identify yourself.
It's Jennifer Gable. We actually rent the property that's on the land, so we were just wondering what's going to happen to our house.
not really a question for us,
Yeah, and if it's all,
good question. But I'd say you should direct that to
your landlord, yeah.
the landlord and, have them qualify it
Change
with,
the zone? Maybe change the zone, so there's an entrance now, it's gonna be converted to industrial?
Don't, that question.
So there's gonna be a house.
I would go to your landlord first and they can check with the developer that's planning.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a.
Okay, I had checked it online and did not see it on Sunday. Okay. So we have that covered then, and with the signage, what was the date on this one? August 17th, so that was. So if we continue this to the next session,
Make a motion.
Well, so what's the deficiency in the application?
There's materials, I think you guys didn't have a chance to review yet.
some more materials were submitted on our table tonight, so we've not had a chance to review them.
Is that the only concern at this point, just that we didn't receive that?
The notification was out for 10 days. That's,
How many days was it out?
We put it up on Monday. I just learned about it on Monday, I put it up on Monday.
like 3 days.
Can we do something for him? Well,
Yeah.
let him do that? Yeah.
Okay. We will not make a ruling. In the end, we will continue this to the next meeting to finalize it. We've had a chance to in-depth review. But if you have a presentation for us,
Yeah, do you want to do the presentation?
It's not nearly as in depth as the last one.
Started. You want me to start? I'll start.
Yeah, you can.
So, Matt Ryan of Edmonton, we've been in Monroe for 66 years. Due to our growth over the last 4 or 5 years, we're looking to erect a warehouse in the back of our current building. The size of that warehouse is 60 by 140, 60 by 140. We're proposing to erect the building an existing driveway that's currently being used for fleet of vehicles, specifically our larger vehicles in the fleet. Part of the driveway, the existing driveway does lie within the 100-foot setback. A portion of the proposed building will also lie within said setback. We did discuss alternative locations, none of which we found feasible without disrupting traffic flow, limiting parking spaces, and efficiencies. Here to seek approval for the project. Answer any questions that the commission may have.
you got to flip the chart there. Do you want something you want to show or point out on there?
Think I'm gonna hold this? I can hold it.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jay Soni. I'm a licensed land surveyor. And Ham Connor, he's like a civil engineer. The design of this drainage is not feeling well. So I just gonna, you could ask me any questions because I'm the one who prepared all the site plan, so I'm aware of all this thing.
Okay. We've got the map here, so when we ask questions, you can point and we can see.
Oh, okay.
Should be able to make some progress there.
It's on the bottom, you can see this.
I see, yeah.
Ham Connor.
We should call on you, Keith, for questions? Questions?
Are they done presenting?
He said he's substituting and,
No, let me go a little bit later.
okay. Let's start down on the end, Ryan.
We have like the two options we are showing you guys, like option one, we're gonna go with the rainwater design, or the rainwater runoff. Option two, we are using the underground contact unit for the rainwater runoff. So there are two options. So rainwater is pretty much like very cost effective. And contact, that needs little testing, soil testing. So we're gonna go with any one option.
Okay.
You said this is a warehouse. What is going to be stored? Just what will you have in there?
We do HVAC and chemical work, so it's going to be materials and equipment.
Materials, anything?
Ross, questions? No questions. I'm thinking, I like the idea of a rain garden. I'd like to be able to see daylight.
So that's very good.
Coltech, chances of it clogging and you have to dig it up and
That's correct.
it's not functioning.
That's correct.
And it'll give us another opportunity to add some more landscaping around it.
So, makes sense.
That's all.
Comments, Jim? Questions?
Yeah, planting plan, you're gonna provide that at some point?
At some point, yes, we're gonna do that.
Yeah. We,
Absolutely, yes.
do that.
Usually what we're gonna do with the rain, yes.
when we come back to review this
Absolutely,
next
we
time,
could add
we'll
that.
start making your list and we'll get all those items.
Is all this lot paved?
Lots paved, yes.
All
Yes,
lots paved?
The lot is paved where the proposed building is going?
yes, sir, yes, it
Okay.
is. So we are making it better, once we put the building, we're gonna take the rainwater, rainwater runoff into the garden. So we actually are doing it better for the.
There's no drainage in there, no catch basins?
No, not right.
So it's just sheet flow right into the,
It's the way the topography is, that's the way it is, it's flowing in this existing rain garden area.
so it's just flowing out to the,
Absolutely, yes,
to the rain garden?
yes.
We need to see something on the rooftop drains also.
Yeah, I
more detail
all
on
those
that.
details, but right now I'm showing the roof leader going into the rain garden. So that's where we're gonna,
There's no detention at all?
excuse me, in rain garden.
Detention at all in this?
Right now, they got like the existing rain garden, all the way, you could see on the bottom. It says existing rain garden, that's what they have right now.
There is an existing right
There is an existing rain garden, yes.
that we put in the prior one, 6 or 7 years ago.
Where's that show? Point me on.
Southeast, right here, underneath the proposed parking area.
So proposed. All right, so you're saying. Oh, I got it. Oh, now I see. And all these parking spaces are gonna be paved?
Yes,
Yes.
Are there any parking spaces back there currently?
it's, oh yeah, the entire, everything that you see is paved. And
Paved now?
Yes.
So it's not you're not changing the pavement, you're just putting the building in?
Correct.
But the space over there is storage and things now, right?
It's the vehicles, there's all vehicles,
For the main parking area, but the area of the proposed building,
our vehicles.
vehicles, okay.
Yes.
In entire footprint, if I understand correctly, of the proposed building right now is on existing asphalt.
It is, it's parking space with vehicles that are now
What I'm
currently
saying, but it's paved now.
paved.
Okay, so we're not filling or changing, adding any more impervious, we're taking away.
You know,
I
Yes,
consider it taking away, but, okay. So watershed, all those calculations are almost exactly the same, except for 0.05 coefficient, right?
Yes.
Between roof and asphalt?
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got a section, can you point out there the wetland area comes in like around the corner of that building through here? But then the second wetland line goes over the whole back of the property, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And there's no activity planned?
Absolutely.
Nothing back there, okay.
There'd be a bathroom in it?
there's not going to be a bathroom in that. I have both men's and women's locker rooms just inside the main building there in the back space.
So no septic required?
Not,
Okay.
ask another question. Same thing about on the previous application. Do you have enough flat area to get around this building for maintenance purposes?
Yes.
What's the square footage of the building?
8,400.
8,400, okay. A little different than that 96,000 we were just looking. Okay.
Anything anybody would like to see modified in the drawing, clarified? Can they come back to finalize this?
Just a planting plan, I guess. Planting plan, okay. Is there any list? Keith, anything in that land area?
You're proposing new lighting or anything?
New lighting? No, just
No.
whatever we would put up.
Whatever you needed for the building to light up the doors and such.
Correct.
The facing door, all the garage doors are all going to be facing the parking lot where the cars are going to be parked.
Correct.
You have 112 vehicles?
We have 90 vehicles right now.
Good to be you.
Not if he's a mechanic.
Any further questions?
Okay, anybody else have?
I think we're finished at this point.
Well, I want to make a suggestion. If all we're really looking for is a planting plan on the rain garden, why don't we just make that a condition of approval?
Well, we need, I hate to do this because I, in many ways, agree with you, but we have not given the public sufficient time with posting that sign to come back and make comments. This is a public hearing. That means we must give them that.
But it was in the paper on time?
Voices apparently, not on the online.
I had for 3 years and I don't remember ever having someone say that there was a sign posted. Or I've ever seen one at any of the walkthroughs we ever did. Never happened.
Okay, well, they've been out there.
It's been, I mean, I know it's only been 3 days, but I don't remember, I didn't know myself that, yeah, you needed that. I'm kind of thrown by that.
Everywhere we sit, we talk and how can we make things move along a little bit quicker for these meetings, and it's a good opportunity to just get us a planting plan. Just move it along.
Worst thing that happens is someone appeals it because of the sign. They could take that risk.
I think we should see the planting plan. I mean, I don't think it's how you approve it based on a planting plan we haven't seen.
I don't think it will hurt to take it to the next meeting.
There's something that we could do. This building that is 5 months out in order. I have people sitting on top of people.
How about, we've done this before. Done this before. We had an application we approved, there was something missing, gave them a time frame to come back to present it, which well, I'm just gonna throw something out there.
Let's be
They agreed to a $30,000 landscape bond if the plans, until the plans are submitted.
What type of landscaping? Because we're in
It's a
a,
lot of money. It's just high.
we're in a driveway. I'm just trying to understand where the plan is.
I'm throwing out that it's, you're forced to not comply because of you're forced to comply because it's such a, if you agree to this ridiculous sum, okay, of $30,000, you're gonna come back and give us the plan.
Sure.
Right? I'm throwing that out to the commission. If you want to, just throw it out there. So you're on the hook. You're gonna, if we go to deliberation on this, we're gonna have it as a condition of approval.
This building has been ordered or not?
I can't order it until I would not feel comfortable paying for the building prior to getting, but it's 5 months out. My building's back there.
This green line with all the little X's on it, that's the wetland line?
The green line is
That's
a fence, I think.
That's a property
With
line.
all the little X's on it?
That's a silk fence.
That's so.
Yeah, wetlands comes in a couple of
And there's black.
spots there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, so what's the distance between the back of the building and the property line?
That'd be
Yeah, that is, I am
6 feet 7.
26, yeah.
That's it.
26 feet 7.
6 feet. So you,
I am curious the planting plans, and
how
for
about,
me, if it is on top of pavement, what are we looking for theoretically?
well, the back, there's asphalt in the back of the building?
Yes, there's asphalt all around the building.
it's
Yeah, and, you know.
So would they have to do raised beds around it or something to that effect? It's all on top of existing pavement. That's what I'm curious about.
Let me ask another question. The rain garden you guys installed, is it engineered
Yes,
for all the water flow in the parking lot?
yes.
The second rain garden is technically not even necessary because the difference between the coefficient of a roof, a metal roof and asphalt is 0.05, 5%. So there's 5% more watershed. Wait, am I saying that right? No. It sheds 5% more water at the roof than the pavement. The pavement absorbs, I think, 5% of the rain, 95% sheds off, a metal roof sheds 100%.
That's only 5%.
So you're adding on the area that is the 8,400 square feet, you're increasing the watershed by 5%, just of that. It's almost not even necessary.
Just 420 feet.
What?
It's 420 feet, you know, 5%. It's only 400 feet.
Yeah.
Like really,
Right.
that's all you're increasing it.
So, okay, so you're
But they
saying,
have it on the plan, they're gonna build it, they're gonna build a rain garden.
and everybody, Ross, you
Rain
were
garden.
questioning the rain garden. Are you okay with it?
Oh, yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
I didn't know there was asphalt behind the building. I thought like if you overdig and you just end up taking out the
It's not
asphalt.
gonna take,
right to the property.
keep the asphalt behind the building? So you're gonna put it back after you dig the footing, you're not changing anything.
If you end up over digging this
How many square feet is
and you
it?
end up
8,400.
No, what's the 5%?
420.
Is there a place where you could take off 420 square feet of asphalt from that plan? And then you have no increased watershed whatsoever?
there you go.
We don't need rain garden.
What?
We don't.
You want to be the rain garden? One or the other.
I mean, if we,
Yeah, we will do that.
if we want plant material, just take the asphalt out behind the plant, the building. Put on a line
Well, I
of
think you probably needs it to get around, it probably wants to maintain.
Just around 6 feet.
They want a lot of room.
I'm just throwing, I'm doing the, the kind of, obviously, there would have to be that would be a condition that would have to be represented, but we could move it forward. But, it's 420, again, Ron just threw the number to me, so I'm just throwing it out there, just my idea, or rain garden. An extra rain garden doesn't hurt, it's a great thing to do. It splits up the load, it's better for the environment. You're already probably planning on building it. So the biggest question is we want to know what plants are going to be and how many. And if we hold you to a ridiculously high number to come back, so we know you come back, I know the town's done this before.
I would take a different approach. I would trust them to come back and not put something on like that.
I'm trying to appease everybody, that's concerned.
Yeah,
So-
I think you guys have been in this town long enough.
I'm
You're
good
gonna
with the
go.
condition of the planting plan, 'cause, they won't get the CO until it's done, so
That's true. So you bring back
it doesn't matter.
you'll submit a revised set of plans with a planting plan. And please make a motion.
We gotta close
Make a
the
motion.
public hearing though, right?
Deliberations, what?
This is a public hearing, correct?
Thank you.
So we gotta have public comment and,
Oh, right.
and do that whole thing.
Ron, are there
Sometimes good twice.
anyone in the facility? Want to make public comment?
Anyone online with public comment? If you're muted and trying to speak, we don't hear anyone. Thank you, Jim. Looks like we have no public.
Public comment.
Can I have a motion? Move this application to deliberations?
Make a motion.
He made a motion.
Second.
Vote. Vote is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you for your creativity, Commissioner Romano. Getting us moving on this. All right, 1 second to clear the plate here.
Nobody can say, you guys are just dragging everything out. Gotta move.
All right, we're doing the right thing.
Now, our next item, one we've all been waiting for. This is the new Wolf Park Fields. I am recusing myself. Okay? For the record, Commissioner Romano is recusing himself. IWC 2017-01A1, 285 Cutler's Farm Road, permit approval amendment modification application. We have someone to speak. Let me say a couple of words first to the commissioners. This was approved originally by this commission and planning and zoning in April of 2017. Jim and Ross were here for that. When was it? 2017? Your name was on there? Yeah, you guys approved it. And this is on here as an administrative review. That does not fall within our guidelines of the opinion wetlands. So we're going to treat this like a regular hearing. We're going to vote at the end. So
Is the application is still active? It's still a valid application?
the application expired and a new plan has been put together. So it's an amendment to the original application. The technicality is that it did expire, but we will treat it as an active application. Let us know when you're ready.
It's Rick to come for a minute. There you go. All right. All right, we're cooking with gas. Sorry, Rick. I thought they needed your help. Can you share it out? Zoom.
Good evening. My name is David Monroe. I'm a civil engineer with TPA Design Group in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm here this evening on behalf of the Monroe Park and Recreation Department to share with you the revisions that have been made to the set of plans for the ball fields at Wolf Park. So you're aware of the changes and can hopefully authorize what we're proposing to do as it differs from what was originally approved back in 2017. As you may recall, that this was put out to bid in conjunction with parking improvements at the park. It was too costly. We were asked to review, see what we could do to bring the project down in scope and complexity and make it possible to get this carried out. So this graphic shows conceptually what we're looking at doing. The two fields, one is proposed to be built immediately east of the existing tennis courts in what is an open lawn area. The second, the west field, the larger of the two, is proposed to be built in an existing open field area that's historically been mowed for hay to the west further west of the tennis courts across an existing wetland corridor. And the project will also include construction of a walking path out to the west field to allow for pedestrian access, emergency access out to that field. The significant difference that we're seeing in this application is that we've reduced the size of both fields. Original scope back in 2017 and earlier was to maximize the use, particularly of the west field, make as large an available playing area as possible in order to provide as much flexibility for the staff, but also so that the field location itself could be marked out differently from year to year and enhance the longevity of the playing surface. What we're looking at now is cutting back the size of the area that is graded in order to reduce the earthwork volume and bring the project down a little bit in scope. There's been more changes in the practice field here by the tennis courts. It was originally more expansive. it was going to have a crown form. We were going to be relocating some existing stone farm walls that were around three sides of it. And what we're doing now, if I go to our plan.
Could you go back to that original picture just for 1 second? Primary interest of this group, of course, is the wetlands. And I think this is a very good picture of that wetland corridor. So just so we all note that path is the only place that
Right.
cuts across the wetland.
Right. The only direct impact is in these two crossing areas. And what we're proposing is a stone dust path. It's going to be built with a pervious base, crushed stone. We're going to have a couple of 12-inch pipes in each of the crossing areas to ensure that the wetland flows are able to pass through and minimal and not result in any damage because of damming up and overflowing and blocking flow from moving through the area. That's the only disturbance areas, direct disturbance areas that we're proposing. Part of that is also the approved disturbance also included installation of some empty conduits along the path alignment to facilitate future potential installation of water line for irrigation, power line to support school, something like that. But to get back to, in terms of other impacts, the other impacts are impacts in terms of upland review area impacts, not direct wetland impacts. But what we're proposing to do now, if I look at this, the practice field area is now the practice field. We are retaining the stone walls to the south, to the west, and to the north. The field previously had expanded much farther north and south. It was necessary to remove those walls. It was involved along with grading and wall restoration. What we're trying to do is to diminish the impact area, diminish the potential cost by keeping the design as simple as possible. We've also changed from a design which had a crowned ball field to a cross slope. So the slope of the field will slope from the tennis courts west toward the wetland. Because we had previously had a crown, we were anticipating needing to do some drainage work between the field and the tennis court because we were going to have both water shedding off the tennis court into a low area and also shedding off the crown of the field back to the same place. We had proposed an under drain at that time that dry. At this point, we're not inclined to think that that's necessary, that it may not, in terms of cost, may not be meaningful. However, we would like to preserve the possibility that once we get out there, there's a contractor working, and we discover that there's a shallow groundwater issue, we may go ahead and install essentially a French drain, a stone-filled trench that would allow for water running off the tennis court to infiltrate more efficiently and have less impact on the field. The history of test pits that have been done on both these fields suggests that we're much more likely to have water issues on the west field because the west field is downhill from the wetland. We know that there are relatively shallow groundwater in some portions of the field, which is why we do have a subdrain along all the way around the west side, the east side rather, of the proposed field in order to mitigate any potential groundwater issues that might affect playability and long-term performance. That's essentially the crux of what we're proposing. The economy has been gained by simply taking out work like not having to relocate the stone walls by reducing the area that we're trying to create, so we're doing less earthwork. And we're also not making a paved path. It's not going to be a gravel path. Instead, so that we can try to see this through as efficiently as possible. Overall, both fields have been designed to balance cut and fill. This is not intended to be an earthwork project in the sense that somebody's trucking in lots of material. In terms of what comes in, it's going to be the material that's associated with building the pathway, the base material, the surface material, the pipes, and in terms of the fields, it's crushed stone and pipe for the under drains. The intent is there's a lot of good topsoil out there. It gets pulled aside, stockpiled, and reused once the fields are graded. The fields are graded so that in both cases, you're cutting on the east side and you're filling on the west side. So we're taking what's right now a fairly steep sloping field and turning it into something that's at a playable cross slope in the order of 2%. So that's the crux of what we're here for, is to get your consent that this remains consistent with the original approval and allow the parking rec to move forward with the process.
Thank you. You guys are all lined up there like you want to speak.
Well, Mr. Holsworth's going to speak. I just want to clarify something for the record. Mr. Chairman, I failed to inform you that the governor's executive order extended all these permits. Mr. Holsworth is going to put in his report.
Very good.
He'll give you the public act number.
Thank you. My name is Bill Holsworth. I'm the Director of Economic and Community Development for the town of Monroe. Good evening, Mr. Chair, commissioners, colleagues, staff, public participants. It's my pleasure to be here this evening. Thank you for the honor of kicking off the Hope Park Fields project for the commission this evening. Originally approved through this commission in April of 2017, this project has a 5-year term of approval that has been extended through Executive Order 7JJ. It's an expiration. The expiration of these permits was told by the government for an additional 2 years as it applies to Chapter 440 of the General Statutes of the State of Connecticut, COVID-19 outbreak and the public health emergency and civil preparedness that had followed. It is under this prior approval that the town submits this modification application for the Wolf Park Athletic Fields. This project, as presented this evening, enjoys the support of Town Council, Office of the First Selectman, Parks and Rec Commission, the Department Head, and the Department of Economic and Community Development, as well as numerous sports leagues, clubs, associations, teams, coaches, residents, and most of all, for the kids. The rationale for the modification request is to provide an updated plan for the commission to review, which incorporates the changes our team has requested based upon the original approval in order to right-size the project scope from needs and financial perspective. In June of 2018, this project was put out to bid. Proposals came back outlining work to be done. It was 2 to 3 times the estimates that we had originally put forth. These increased costs were attributable primarily to stone wall relocations, access path restoration, and additional construction techniques required to accomplish the development of these fields. Our team, led by Missy Oros, Director of Parks and Recreation, consisting of Rick Schultz, Town Planner, and myself, under the leadership of First Selectman Ken Kellogg, collaborated with staff and our engineer Dave Saka from TPA, as well as Scott Schatzline, our town engineer, to investigate prudent and feasible alternatives to reach the goal of building these fields. Much of the original plan has not changed, such as field locations being the same and the access path to Westfield, affectionately known to us as access path number 2. Including wetland crossings have also not changed since our original approval. What has changed is a reduction in field size. Westfield has been reduced by 27,200 square feet, which is a 24% reduction in the original size. The practice field was reduced by 22,000 square feet, which is a 38% reduction in field size. Those reductions in field sizes also resulted in a reduction in the stone wall relocation of over 500 linear feet stone wall, but also field construction technique from center crown to cross pitched. Removal of overflow parking renovation that will be pursued as a separate project with a separate budget and a redirection of permanent improvement for access to the practice field. I hope you found this backdrop helpful in understanding where we are with this project, and we humbly request that action in the affirmative be taken this evening to approve this modification application as presented to you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holsworth. Are we ready for questions?
Has anybody, Missy, anyone else want to present before we go to questions?
Very good. Ryan, why don't we start on the end?
Sure. Could I ask, can we go back to that first image that it showed the pathway through the wetlands? Yeah, that's, okay. So I've been a longtime resident and I know the area well, and I actually thought that over through that space would perhaps be more invasive. And in terms of the wetlands, it does not look like it is. I'm curious about a lot of things though, just as a parent of children in town, what is the relationship between those two fields? What is going to be happening? One is drawn to look like a soccer field and the other like a football field, but one is called a practice field and the other is Westfield. What is the intent of those two fields in relation to one another?
Ms. Yoros, the Parks and Recreation Director. So the intent of these two fields, all of you are aware of a Great Hollow Lake. I have a dual purpose area of baseball and softball and soccer/lacrosse. So the goal to get these fields finally done is for soccer, lacrosse, football, field hockey, so that the baseball and softball fields can now be used accordingly. So it's just a shift of some of the activities that we're planning to do there.
Okay. Is that, so it wouldn't necessarily be that a youth sport would be on the practice field and then go over and play their game on the.
So one of the things we were talking about, 2 years ago, I met with league presidents when I first really got in the reboot of this. And what we were looking for was that smaller practice field could be used twofold. One, it could be as a warm-up space. And then if there's a bigger game going on, then you go to the big field, or just some of our preschool program. I mean, there's not enough space to run everything that I want to run, let alone the 33 youth leagues, adult leagues, and the high school teams that use our fields. So it just would help us reorganize. And sometimes a coach just needs a quick little practice, doesn't need a big field. Also, you could have multiple activities of the same sport going on that larger field. You just shift the sides. Like you have 3 mini soccer games going on, which would maximize the amount of children that we can service in the communities.
I would be remiss if I didn't say on the record that 35 and older softball league.
We need more softball.
It's a gem of a program.
But can you imagine now if I didn't have to share that with soccer and lacrosse, you guys could play more nights.
Sure.
And then we also have a women's league. We can't forget them. They play on Monday and Wednesday. They're trying to expand too.
Yeah. So the reason I ask these questions is I am here to represent the best interest of the wetlands as well as the town of Monroe. I think about my own experiences in the park, and I am certain that there is a more direct route from those two fields, for example. Or if my daughter is playing soccer on the larger field, the West Field, and I have a softball game at Field 3, the walk around, the loop around, it's a broad pathway to go all the way around. I understand that that's preventing wetlands interruption, but from a park and rec standpoint, have you considered the capacity to travel through the areas within the park from one area to the next?
Let Dave handle that one.
Sure.
Well, I can't speak to how this connects to another part of the park. That was beyond the scope.
Sure.
In terms of getting to the West Field specifically, the reason that this location was selected was because it was the least direct wetland impact. It's also the simplest in terms of building a durable way to get across the wetland. This is actually a wetland. If you're out there, not today, not this summer certainly, but I've been out there a lot. We did look at, for example, this narrowing path right here. Is there an option there? Is there some other way? There's accessibility to Parkview Road and Farmview Road from the opposite end of this. It still involves an extensive wetland crossing, and particularly in this area, particularly in the spring and fall, there's running water, there is standing water. To build something across it would be a very expensive undertaking if you wanted to continue to allow the wetland function to exist. The only the closest practical thing to an alternative way to get at there is a stone wall, it's way over here, and that stone wall divides the wetland essentially. What's north of that drains north, what's south of it drains south. You can walk along that stone wall and stay dry between the east side and the west side. But it's way over here. It's not, it's even farther. I mean, this is relative, this comes out right by the swimming pool building and the pavilion. In terms of regular or relatively accessible path from the parking where they're entering the park on this side of the park, this was what seemed to be the most practical, buildable, and least impactful in terms of the wetland.
Can I, if I can, Matt?
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Bill Holsworth again. Still Bill Holsworth. I too have children in town, and I'm very familiar with the schedule for all of the different types of sports. Showing up early for a game that starts at whatever time it starts and the field just isn't ready and the game before you is still going on. Coach is very anxious to get the kids moving, get them warmed up. And they'll be over on the practice field warming up for their game on West Field. We looked at this pathway that Dave had pointed out here across the wetlands, and we tried to come up with a solution that would provide that access point for not only walking purposes, but also for construction vehicles. The construction vehicles themselves were really where the hiccup came on those wetlands and from a design standpoint. We still believe that there is merit in being able to provide that crossing from a walking path standpoint. And it is our intention to pursue that at a later date under a different application that will become before this commission. But we do feel that because of the locations and the visibility of each field to one another, the kids are going to want to cut right across that wetland while mom and dad have to go the long way around with the wagon and the younger kids. We're looking at ways of being able to build the path there. It's not off the table, but when we submit it, we wanted to get this project completed. We want to keep it within scope, within budget, get the fields built. The fields are going to take approximately 2 years from the end of the construction to the first day they can actually be used once the grass is planted and whatnot. So we do have at least 2 years from the day construction completes to figure out that path. We'd also like to see what is the natural progression of the path. Who's cutting across those wetlands or those areas, see where that foot traffic is, and then put a path there. So it is our intention to come to you again to talk about that connection point. But for now, it's these two permanent paths that will be there that will allow for construction vehicle access, walking access, as well as, God forbid, an ambulance is needed at either of those fields. Those two paths that Mr. Sacco has already outlined would be our direction at this time.
So that other path is a path, that lighter?
That one, yes, it is a path. It is not existing.
Not existing.
That is the new path that we're looking to have added as part of the modification to the existing approval on the books tonight.
So the original approval just had the
dark yellow path.
Okay.
This path here, from this point here, all the way down through the path, crossing these two wetland areas, was part of the original approval back in 2017. That has not changed. It's only this little Y off of that path that will provide the access for the construction vehicles to come out to Westfield. And the reason that path has been created is because it provides a permanent improvement to the park. And it takes away the concept of coming up the main driveway here by the tennis courts and cutting across this lawn area. We avoid all the restoration costs associated with that. We avoid the direct impact to park activities. And this would keep all of the construction going down one direct route and then coming up through this path to get to the practice field, coming down this path to get to Westfield. But this path here across these wetlands will probably be in front of this commission at a later date.
Did you say, I believe I heard you say that electric is going to be run out there for lights. Is there going to be?
For scoreboards.
Scoreboards. Not for lights. For not for lights.
Irrigation?
Yes. Irrigation. Two 6-inch conduits will be placed underneath that path so that we can run the wiring and the,
But there's going to be irrigation as well?
yes.
Yeah. The application, previous application included, and this included a request to put in essentially a big pipe sleeve, 2 big pipe sleeves under the trail so that there would not have to be a second future disturbance. At this point, that's a long-term plan. It's not part of the project to provide irrigation or electric. We merely wanted to maintain to get the approval so that we would have the future flexibility to extend those services when the rec department was ready to do that. But this is not, what we're talking about is not at the level you would need to support a lighted field at that location. That was never part of any previous approval, and it's not.
The lights on the field that shared with softball and baseball, those are, because there have been lights there in the past, but they're movable lights, is that?
Those lights are actually through Monroe Lions. They purchased them themselves and they only use them through the ball season. The only permanent lights we currently have in Wolf Park are the ones on the basketball court. Those are on a timer and they're only on certain times of the year. And then at the tennis courts. So those lights are not even ours.
Could they be run out? Could they be used on that field as well in theory?
I guess we could probably consider that and figure out cost and all that moving forward.
What about bathroom? I know this is asking a lot of questions that I think are probably on the border of.
That's okay. So ideally, I'm assuming when we run a possible pipe for water, eventually I would love to see another bathhouse where there's toilets and stuff out there. If not, in the time being, we'll do the portalets like we do in some of the areas of the park when we're in the off season down like at the lake, when we have to winterize, we put portalets in.
Yeah, to go back to 2017 and the discussions not only with the IW Commission, but with Planning and Zoning, the path was made intentionally wide enough at 12 feet to support something like a Portaloo service truck so that they could drive out during the week and service Portaloos located at the end of the west field. Move them in season, take them out in season.
I have other questions, but I don't want to, I feel like I'm hogging the stage.
We can come back to you again.
That's perfect.
Russ? So what's the width of this path that we're talking about that's going to be built?
The drive, the top width is 12 feet. It's designed to be able to, it's 2 purposes. First, you have to get the equipment in there. You have to get the trucks and everything.
12 feet? Mm-hmm. 12 feet?
12 feet. It's designed so that you can get construction equipment out to that field, build the field, and then as you back out, you surface it, grade it, finish it up, and dress it up. Again, going back to the previous discussions that we've had with P&Z and IW, we wanted to be sure that if you needed to, you could get that portable truck out there. You could get an ambulance out there. That there was flexibility to do that. Obviously, it's more than you need to simply do pedestrian traffic. But, given the interest in other types of access to that field that have come up, been raised by both commissions, we proceeded with a 12-foot wide path to support, greater flexibility in terms of access.
So there's a few areas of the path that looks like it's going to be a little bit wider because of the grade on the side. So like those areas, what is the footprint of those areas?
Well, the widest areas are quite near the crossings of the getting in and through the wetlands crossings. Because we've got to accommodate, what we tried to do was hold the grade of the trail as close as possible to the existing grades. Essentially, flatten out a few of the highs and lows, make it as smooth a path as possible. What we're not doing is we're not trying to dig down and bury pipe. The intent is there's an existing flow line out there. The pipes are essentially going to be laid on existing grade and then covered so that we're not trenching. We're trying not to change flow patterns. The pipe, we're looking at 12-inch structural iron pipe. They're going to be laid down in the existing flow paths, and then there will be crushed stone, modified riprap used so that you not only have the capacity of the pipe itself, but if you have high water flows due to a big storm, you can have water seep through. The stone layer without it becoming weakened because it's saturated. Then on top of that, we have a fine crushed material to create a stable base for a crushed stone surface. We need to get about a foot of cover to protect the pipes so that at the actual pipe crossings, yes, we're about 2 feet up. The town engineer in his most recent, we had originally graded this at a 1 to 2 slope on both sides. The town engineer requested for safety purposes that we expand that to 1 and 4. That was starting to get very invasive. So what I've done is graded it so that it's 1 and 3. So if you're talking about a 2-foot deep section at the most extreme point where you're putting in these pipes, you're making up 2 feet of grade, you're going out 6 feet. So your total maximum width is about 24 feet. 6 feet of slope on each side, 12 feet across the road.
How many square feet total impact?
If you go to your plan, page 5,
It actually shows it pretty clearly.
Total direct wetland impact area is 2,971 feet. But I would go to, there is, right.
that shows those 2 crossing points pretty well.
Yes, and as you can see, we have the 2-to-1 grading, this particularly the upper one is lightened out a little bit in order to accomplish a softer grade, especially on the downhill side, since the entire area does slope from south to north, so that there's a little bit more impact area right here and right here than had been included in the original plan. Again, that reflects comments from the town engineer. For the most part, we're trying to keep, looking at other parts of the trail, we're trying to keep the grades as smooth as possible and as close as possible to existing grades and just soften them so that it's a reasonable walking path. It's not too up and down. It still feels like a trail through the woods.
12 feet to me, and then you got these wider areas up to 20, you would just say 20, I mean, it just seems so invasive and so expensive. I'd really like to see another couple ideas. I mean, I put 4 kids through school in this town. 3 of them played soccer. We spent a lot of time at these fields. Every time we wanted to go out to that hay field, we went through the lower area. There's already 2 openings. There's 3 or 4 stone wall natural openings that people already use.
Well, I mean, this location was specifically selected because there is an opening in the existing stone wall. We were trying to take advantage of it to get through from, to get through from the area where the reconstructed playscape is, through the existing path and out to the west field. That's
just seems like such overkill. And the area that, you're talking about is rocky boulders, trees. It's a massive undertaking to put a path like this through here. I would really love to see another 1 or 2 ideas where a path could possibly go. Maybe further up out of the wetlands.
I believe those wetlands extend, don't they? They're just not shown on here.
Let me just back up.
It looks like it
looks like the end right there.
That went over the edge and that was it. Where's the blue one?
No, the wetlands weren't flagged farther down. It drops off very steeply there. And the water courses continue. They become more defined as water courses. But if we were to have someone go out and flag it, the wetlands would continue.
Yeah.
And the wetlands are virtually continuous all the way along between the 2 field areas. There's really not a dry place that we can do this. We really identified specifically the 2 narrowest crossings to keep the impact as minimal as possible. If we looked at, we did look extensively at this shortest distance. In terms of the length of the crossing, it's almost twice as much. And there is literally standing water there much of the year. in order to maintain the wetland function and not essentially dam up the flow, you'd have to have a number of pipes connecting across it. You'd have to build a pervious berm in order to allow moisture to flow back and forth and maintain a viable path. Because the path itself is going to be, if it effectively becomes a dam to flow, eventually it's going to be saturated, it's going to be overtopped, and it's going to be eroded. It's going to be an ongoing maintenance issue. So what we tried to do is find a place to build a durable, viable path that had the least impact on the wetlands and provided a practical and reasonably short connection between the parking area and the west field.
As a taxpayer in Monroe, I would really think that it's such a natural path down in the lower area. It's got to be less expensive to put something through there.
Is the space that you have to clear getting into the wetlands, that feels like it's a pretty dense area. So how much has to happen for the pathway as you have it designed? You call it access path 2, right? Is what you're referring to? Oh no, that's the one that's to the practice field.
Either way, you're disturbing wetlands. The simplest way to go is the simplest path. In 12 feet, in some areas you're 24. I really like to see another plan.
Well,
I might have been here back when this was approved. I don't know what I was thinking, but I don't like it.
This is an amendment to an approved plan. So we're being asked to approve the amendment.
Just the
original plan and the original path were already approved.
Right.
But before we go, Jim, do you haven't really said much.
And that's just the second pathway from where the primary path is, right behind the playground to the practice field. That's all that we're being asked to address tonight?
I believe so.
As Mr. Holsworth said, one of the things that came back from the original bid was a lot of concern on the bidder's part about using the existing bituminous paths in the park and up toward the tennis court as a way to get in and out of that practice field construction area. That led to a lot of people padding their prices because they were afraid of how much work they were going to do to restore areas that were damaged. So the intent is find a different way to get construction access to the practice field. It is not being proposed to become a permanent path. The intent is once construction is done, things are going to rest. People will find their way around and figure it, and over time it will become obvious what people's preferred routes are to get to places. And then if necessary, you can upgrade them. You can put in a gravel path, paved path, whatever is necessary to support the traffic patterns that develop based on people's use of the fields.
How many yards of wetland soils have to be removed in order to put this plan together?
We're not intending to move any wetland soils. We're intending to build over what's there. We're trying to minimize the disturbance as much as possible. We're not planning to excavate in order to put in the pipes. We're not planning to regrade the area uphill of the pipes. We're trying to put them where water is flowing now and ensure that water can continue to flow in those paths. And at the same time, do what's necessary to grade in a durable and serviceable path that can withstand periodic heavy downpours and seasonally heavy flow of water through the wetland.
I went to school for landscape design, and I was in business since 1989 for myself. If I was going to sell this to a homeowner, they're always looking for the best price. To me, it's got to be another option.
Let's move along. Make sure, Jim, you've got your opportunity.
Yeah, it looks like your practice field, that's not a path. That's just a construction access. You're not proposing to put a path there?
No, the intent is that fields are going to have to grow in for a couple of years.
Okay.
It will take time for people to get a sense to figure out. Some people are, there's a lot of different ways that you can get to those fields, obviously. There's, just back up. You know, there's a lot of different ways.
Go back to that. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to get to the practice field. You can walk up the paved path in the parking lot, cut between the handball wall and the tennis courts and get there. You can come in from the other angle. You can walk up from the playscape. The idea is that it's going to take time for people to get to start to use the fields, figure out where people are going to park for them, where they're going to come from, where people.
I mean, if you're not gonna convert that construction access into an actual, path, then obviously the people are gonna take the most direct route. If you don't give them something, some direction, at least say, hey, go this way. What direction would they go in?
They could go in front of the playground.
Oh, so you
That's
walk around, there's
probably a more logical.
Up the hill here.
We're talking about just naturally developed footpaths. That's probably the way it would go.
You can come in over here.
I mean, that's.
If you were gonna go from the practice field to the west field, what's the actual path that's there?
Yeah. That's a fair question. If that's not a permanent path, that's a fair question.
But
I mean, if I'm a parent, which direction do I go if I don't want to walk through the water?
that's going to become a function of how these fields are scheduled and used. The fields weren't intended that you go to this.
Okay, well, so they're not intended to go from one to the other. It's intended
Not
to be.
necessarily. That's something that is going to evolve as the Parks Department figures out what the demand is, who's going to use the small field, who's going to use the big field.
Okay, I was just confused by that path there that isn't going to be a permanent path.
Well,
It may be someday, but it's not proposed at this point.
Well, the idea is that because it's quite close to the parking lot, it's close to the tennis court, the playscape, the pool building, there's a lot of ways to get there. The idea was let it sit, let people start to use it, see where you're wearing out the grass, then build the paths to work where people are using the access.
Just in my opinion, this was approved prior. The application is still good. From what I can tell, they've reduced the impact on the fields. If the path is the same, essentially the same location, same width, correct? I mean, you didn't make it wider since the original application.
The finished path is still, was 12 feet in 2017, it still is today.
So there's nothing significant that's changed. It's been made less impact. So at least in my experience, it's hard for a commission to say no at this point.
You take the rails to trails, aren't there bridges on that, wood bridges?
Yeah, you can put a boardwalk across, sure, but you know.
In the lower area. The top area
It's
is.
pretty expensive to put a boardwalk that you're going to drive a septic truck.
Yeah, you've got to think of construction, maintenance, mowing machines. There's a number of things.
Yeah, and you're going to drive,
You need a solid
you're going to drive
permanent.
construction equipment across it. You need to build something to build that.
Track equipment can drive right through.
Yeah, but fuels the stuff up during construction.
Yeah, that's. The plan was approved previously. It's still in effect. We're being asked to vote on the amendment to this.
All right. Which I'd like to see one or two other options.
I'd like to make a motion on this. I have a suggestion first, and then I'd like to make a motion that we move ahead. Time is gone. I'm going to make a motion that we approve with conditions. And I think it's a fairly beneficial set of conditions that I'm suggesting here. I guess I better state the conditions before somebody can second it. I think that in that section of the pathway that crosses the wetlands and runs up close to the ball field, I think the town needs to install I'm going to call it a discovery zone along there that educates the people walking on the path about the values of the wetlands that they're crossing and the values of the wetlands around them. Maybe a little map of that whole wetlands area. Signage, perhaps some displays or some kind of, the kind of thing that goes on in Discovery Zone up in Webb Mountain Park. So I think that would be beneficial to, it would make it,
From a position of inland wetlands and a wetlands crossing like that, I would hope that the commission would see that in a positive way.
I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah. I think it'd be good for the town. I think it'd be a great project for the Boy Scouts or Sustainable Connecticut or one of those type of things.
An Eagle Scout project or something.
Exactly, something like that.
Do we have a second?
Is that the only condition?
That's my only condition.
Second?
Okay, second. So vote on this? Okay. All those in favor?
Discussion now? You want to have a discussion?
No, I mean, I think if what we were talking about is this second path, I think that there is little to really discuss, honestly.
But this the longer path is on this too, right?
The longer path was previously approved. I think there are some modifications to the previous path, right? That the grading was changed at the wetlands crossing.
I question things like if we're going to put a pathway through that lower area at a later date, once you see foot traffic and where it's going, then how much of a difference does the impact that you're talking about? But wouldn't it be less impactful just to put the pathway through that area to begin with versus having two areas of impact? But that's not what we're approving tonight.
That's correct. And that pathway between the two fields might just be a narrow walking path in the woods, whereas you have to consider with this path, the
Maintenance trucks, mowers.
ambulance, all of those kind of key things that need a good solid base.
Yeah, I understand.
Have you put any costs together for another option? What the top one, you already got bids on that. Did you get any bids at possibly some type of a bridge at the lower area? I'm just not buying it.
We did put costs together for each of the access points that were considered. And this was the one that was the best solution that met all of the needs to bring construction equipment into the site, to have permanent access for ambulances, mowers, recreational vehicles that Ms. Oros has on her staff, not ATVs, but like pickup trucks and machinery. This was the path. It was already approved. Again, we are considering looking at creating a walking path between the fields, but not a path so wide that it would accommodate for construction equipment, bulldozers, triaxles, anything that's coming in to construct these fields would not be something that we would be able to build a path between the two fields, from what I understand from speaking with Dave and speaking with Scott, our town engineer.
If you were to put a path, a roadway like the major path through there, that would have to continue all the way to parking areas. It would impact much larger area, wouldn't it? If it was going to be more than just a walking path.
If we continued with access to them.
Re-engineer your entire route coming in.
Yes, and we have done pricing on all of those routes. We have tried to get an understanding of what those costs are, what's viable, what's feasible, what's prudent, what's been approved.
And didn't you also look at the different access from the neighborhood or from surrounding streets?
We did. Yeah. We did 6 access paths in total.
I think, Ross, they have reviewed about everything.
All right.
I think this has been under almost constant discussion since the approval.
Our team has been working on this project to bring this project into scope and make it affordable. A year and change, working with staff, working with the inland wetlands agent that's been on staff, asking the engineers. I think Dave's anxious to get rid of me, calling him constantly. I know Scott's anxious to get rid of me. We've worked with all of them, asking.
I'm anxious to get rid of you.
Okay, so I'm gonna remake that motion to approve with conditions which I've written down and I can give to town.
I'll second.
Second, okay. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. 3 aye, nay?
Nay.
1 nay. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Now, let's try and get moving. It's getting late. Chris has been patiently waiting there. We have 2 hearing determinations to go through here.
He's back in?
Now,
Coming back in? Hey, Rick? Oh, yeah. Could somebody tell Keith he can come in again?
determination, 750.
Yeah, our next one is going to be the. I hate to say, but being that it's 9 o'clock, there's no way we're going to have a regular hearing tonight still. We have 2 reports still to receive. A report from Chris Persoli on the 64 Cambridge, and then a report, I believe, from NSAFE, if he's here, on status on 64 Cambridge, so we keep as a regular basis.
Okay.
You know what you should have done while I was out there? You should have done heroes, didn't you? I forgot to use it, so it's not your fault.
Okay.
I gotta recuse myself now.
Sit for a minute with this man.
Just go all out there.
Okay. All right. Application hearing determination. We're going to determine what type of hearing to have. Given that it is 9 o'clock, we are not going to start a regular hearing with the intent to complete it tonight. So should we decide that one of these would be a regular hearing, it will still need to be scheduled for another date. IWC 2022-12, 754 Main Street. Proposed construction of outdoor storage in a regulated area. Is there anyone here or online who would brief us on this?
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, Chris Plowsy, Swale Engineering here. I know you guys for determination. Basically, it's 754 Main Street. It's on a stone farm. So you guys might know it's this in town. Looking to, with the new regulations Planning and Zoning Commission approved in the last couple of years, looking to store their natural stone products outside. As a part of that application, we do have to come for you guys as we are doing work in the regulated area. There will be no direct wetland impacts as part of the project. We also have aquarium on 2 sides of the property, and we have notified them with the plans in writing because we are in the watershed. So they are aware of the project. We just ask that this application be handled at the next regular scheduled meeting as opposed to a public hearing. Thank you.
Do you have a letter from Aquarium or any?
Not on me, but we did. I can email it to the town staff.
Was it favorable?
We don't have any information from Aquarium. We have to notify them of the project. I was just saying from my public standpoint, they are a direct abutting neighbor, and we have notified them of what is going on, essentially.
What option does that give them? See, if this is a public hearing, they could make public comment. We could notify them that we'll be presenting at the next hearing.
Correct, yes.
An opportunity.
Yeah, we just think that the application is not as intensive, or there's not really anything besides the outdoor storage being constructed, so we just asked that we could handle it on a regular schedule as opposed to a public hearing.
What are they putting on top of these millings?
Yeah, so they make like natural stone products. I apologize, I'm not really familiar too much with the business, but like granite slabs and things like that. I don't know if any of you have been to the business or not. That is the extent of my knowledge.
They actually buy old bridges and buildings and repurpose them for new things. So they'll turn like a bridge abutment to like a fire pit. Or they'll pull them out, make like a water trough or something. They just they buy old bridge stuff.
Are these all going to be milling areas? All these, you got to put down milling on all these locations?
Not all of it. Actually, most of the areas are proposed to remain grass and wooded, and the materials will be stored on existing lawn or amongst the trees in the wooded area and on existing paved areas. There are some asphalt milling areas proposed though.
We have a motion?
I move that we go to a public hearing due to the fact that the potential impact of the wetlands, they propose putting millings, I don't know, it looks like 15 feet, 20 feet from wetland areas.
We have a second? No second?
I'll second.
Okay. Let's take a vote then. All those in favor of a public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. It'll be a public hearing. Next item. This is 141 and 201 Turkey Roost Road. Let the record reflect that Keith has recused himself. Construction of 90 single-family detached dwellings served by 5,570 linear feet of new roadway.
Yeah, let's do that.
Is there anyone here or online who wants to brief us on this?
Mr. Chairman, J.B. Orkland.
Very good. You're recognized by the chair, Bjorklund.
Thank you. This is an application that started back in 2002. It was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and in 2007, a very similar application was approved by the Wetlands Commission. Unfortunately, all the approvals that were previously granted have expired, and so we're reapplying to the Wetlands Commission, and we will be applying to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the reinstatement of this project.
For reapplication of for the projects, or for reapproval of the previous application?
I think that the previous approvals have expired, and so we're applying for a new application.
We are short of time tonight. I do want to point out, I've gone through these plans fairly extensively, and there were a couple things that would lead me to say that we need a public hearing on this. Number one is the size, the number of units. I assume this is cluster housing, Mr. Bjorklund?
Yes, this is an application. The property is zoned for cluster housing, and that zoning is still in place. And, I would expect that the commission would have a public hearing on this.
Move to go to the public hearing to potential impact of the wetlands and public interest.
Second? Do we have a second? I'll second. All those in favor for a public hearing?
Aye.
All right.
I ask just for my own knowledge, in terms of the volume of units, is that for our concern? Could there be a public hearing with planning and zoning? Just so I know.
I'm sure there will be.
Yeah. So it's the public interest is more related to inland wetlands for us.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. We're at the bottom of the property. There's Smith Pond. There's a number of things. If you look at a wetlands map, the wetlands cover a large portion of it, but
most of the development is sort of up the hill and out of the way from that.
Yeah.
So definitely needs a public hearing. We all need a lot of time to review this. It's a lot of materials.
It's a small novel.
So we'll have a public hearing on that. Let the record reflect that it will be a public hearing. Now, my apologies for the delays, but the next item on our agenda is general discussion. There he comes.
Okay, he's back by popular demand. He's back by popular demand.
Okay. So section C, deliberation session. We have no completed hearings. Section D, agent activities report.
We do.
No report.
Yeah, but the Main Street went to deliberation.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Thank you. Just on track. Okay.
There was multiple Main Streets, but that one.
Yeah.
The only ones on there now?
Wait. Other people are connecting.
I don't know why I can't get this on the big.
Recording in progress? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do our deliberation here. For 786 Main Street. We said that would be, in our discussion was approval with conditions. Keith, you had those conditions.
For,
Other than the $1 million landscape plan.
oh, yeah. I had stuff for the other one, bigger warehouse, but for that one, I say we put this, as presented with the condition of landscape plan coming back is.
And an updated set of drawings, or do we decide those are okay? I see no objection to that then. Okay, so IWC 2022-11, saying approved.
I'll make a motion to approve it with the condition, however anybody else feels comfortable, to secure them to come back, present the landscape plan, but side note, allows them to go to P and Z.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Vote is unanimous. And that is our, do we need to deliberate on the Cutler's Farm Road? We thrashed it around and we voted. So we're finished with that. Correct? Steve? Right?
I was out of that one.
Oh, you're out of that one, that's right. Okay. So now let's move on to our final activity, which is general discussion. And we have two items there, three items. First one is 64 Cambridge Drive update. Chris, you're going to give us that update?
Yes. Ron go first, or is he unsafe zone?
Is he, Rod's, okay. Why don't you go ahead and give us yours, and then we'll do this.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Plowsky, solely engineering here, to speak on behalf of 64 Cambridge. I know that Arnold Carver is also present via Zoom. So I did visit the site today. The site has been progressing quite well. I believe you guys were out there in July. So I hope you were able to take a look for yourselves. If not, I know that Arnold is open to visitations from all commission members. So they have been filling the rear of the site using the material that is currently native to this, that is native to the site. They are trying to get above the groundwater elevation as fast as they can. That is at elevation 411, if you remember from the plans. They are currently at elevation, I would say 408, 409 from what I saw out there today. In terms of the wetland rehydration, they have ran the line all the way up through the wetlands located on the eastern portion of the property. I believe NSAFE recommended to place some timers along that line. I was out there today and can confirm those timers have been installed and are functioning and working properly. I did walk through the wetlands. It's obviously been very dry, but the areas surrounding the irrigation lines seemed moist, if you will, damp. There was no standing water, but as you know, it's been dry for probably the last 2 months of the summer. So they have not been importing any material as of yet. There is a detailed phasing plan that they are following that we have worked with back and forth with Scott, town engineer. I know Commissioner or Chairman Paul, you did send an email to town staff with a few questions. I'd be happy to answer them here if that is okay with all of you.
Let me just preface that so they understand, the commissioner understands my questions. We approved with conditions in March of September 23rd, 2021. Document we all approved. In reviewing that document, there were some things that did either not appear to be completed or we didn't have confirmation they were completed. So we've asked Chris and Soli to bring us up to date on a couple of those issues.
Happy to. So if you will, one of the original questions that you asked regarded the lot line revision. So that was, you guys approved this back in September of 2021, I believe. In October of 2021, in conjunction with our planning and zoning application, we did file that lot line revision on the town land records. So that has been accepted and is part of the town records, if you will.
Very good.
So that has been completed. One of the other questions you asked was regarding the Swale application. So in March of 2022, this year, right before the end of the deadline, it was like the 18th of March, if you will, we did submit that to the town. And we did, Scott Schosselin, town engineer, did offer comments on that application. And we worked through him with those, on those comments. As far as we are aware, we have, completed that requirement and worked through all of his comments on said application. So that's the update on the Swale application. Okay. And there also was a review of final plans, including the second bullet regarding the detailed dust mitigation plan. So as part of that end of March submission of this year, we did submit that to the town, and Scott did look at all that material. Town should have records of such. I do have a received copy of when we did submit that material to town staff, and I know that Scott did look through all that material, because he did offer us comments on it, and we went back and forth. I believe at the end of April, we went to revise all of his comments. And last but not least, confirmation that all applicable state and local permits will be applied for, including but not limited to Department of Energy and Environmental Protection and Town of Monroe Planning and Zoning Commission prior to starting work. So we do have the applicable Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection permits in hand. And we did receive approval from Town of Monroe Planning and Zoning Commission. So both of those items have been completed.
Excellent. Those covered all the questions that I saw on there, and we'll report the third-party consultant, Rob, and his work, I think, cover the other aspects of the approval. I would offer that if anybody wants to read that letter of approval, we can make sure you get it and go through and see if you're satisfied with it. But my review in these questions satisfied me that they were in compliance.
The progress is truly remarkable. I mean, I've been out there probably once or twice a month since they started work at the end of May. And it's really moving at a great pace. I know that NSAFE has been out there. We've checked up on it. It's really impressive the pace they're moving at. Hopefully we'll start to see some of those wetland signs return soon.
Okay, good.
Thank you,
Chris. Yeah. Now we'll hear from Rob from NSAFE. Rob, are you going to want to share your screen?
I don't think I need to.
Okay.
Assuming that you all received the July report that we prepared and shared with the town.
We have not received. That's your second report?
Yes.
Okay, we have not received that, but why don't you fill us in?
So basically, my coworker, Bill Heupel, has been the one who's been going out to the site far more than I have. And so, I know in July that pretty much all the commission members from Wetlands and Planning and Zoning were able to get out to the site at times. That Bill was out there too. and similar to what was just stated, things are progressing quite well at the site. And Bill's been making some recommendations here and there that, the owners and the operators have been, satisfactorily completing, such as putting the water meter on and then making the changes to the water system, with the timers and getting the flow more controlled. So that's been going well. We did also collect a water sample from the well on July 19th, and Bill had provided that data in the July summary report. So I'll talk to Bill tomorrow and make sure that you all have this report tomorrow, which is the July, it covers the month of July. So, and the several visits that he made, and he's, since that time in August, he's been out there about on a weekly basis, checking up on things and seeing how it's going, both the water system and the filling operations, and, things have been moving along really well. So, just trying to see what other highlights he had, and that pretty much covers it. I guess, are there any questions?
Commissioners, questions? No question.
No questions for me.
Good. Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Rob. No questions tonight.
Sure thing. Thank you.
The next item we have here is the resignation of Ron Baya and the appointment of Joe Chapman as the acting agent.
Thank you.
That's a notification only, is that correct?
Yes.
Rick, I'm looking. Okay. Okay. I have not seen any minutes for the last meeting. So we're not going to approve any minutes. Regulation Amendment Committee. No activity. Public Outreach Committee. No activity. A motion?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a public statement.
Step forward. And
Rick Schultz, town planner, I just want to publicly acknowledge Ron Baya's help to the department, to the town of Monroe. He's been very beneficial, and I just wanted to state that for the record. He was very helpful, most recently with the Wolf Park. That was quite involved, as the commission is aware. And we're again thankful to move forward. There are alternative path locations, as this commission is aware, but time is of the essence to get that new bid out, and we want to move forward. And you will see another application. Thank you again, Mr. Byer.
thank you. Yes, thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
We appreciate the help you've given us. Now, if Clark were here, what would we get? What would be the next action he would
Motion
take?
to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Session adjourned.
Here.
Recording can end.